population. So I want to talk about specifically what was in phase 3 and then some of the things going on from a state and national perspective. So in the phase 3 legislation, it included $35 billion specifically for farmers, ranchers, and food suppliers. President Trump already signed this into law. This was the phase 3 money. There's $9.5 billion specifically that went to the USDA for emergency response. The last time I talked to the secretary, the USDA secretary, he had told me that he was working through the different industries, figuring out where he was going to allocate those resources, present that plan to the president, and then have the president approve that plan. I thought that was going to happen last week. It hasn't happened yet. So I'm hopeful that that happens this week. There will be direct payments in there for our dairy farmers, for our citrus growers, for our row crop farmers. The farmers can take advantage of the PPP program for their employers and utilities and those sorts of things that were available through there. Unfortunately, like I'll talk about the dairy industry, for example, in Florida, only about 10% of their overhead is salaries and employee costs. The other overhead is feed and all the different things that go into having a dairy operate. So they need relief through this program, and I've been assured through the Secretary's office that there will be money for Florida farmers and ranchers out of that $9.5 billion, but we have not gotten the details from his office yet as it relates to how that specifically is going to be allocated. There was also $145.5 million for rural development to provide financing to business owners that might not be able to qualify for loans on their own. That's called the Reconnect Pilot Grant programs. And additional funding for distance learning, telemedicine, and the USDA's broadband program. There was also $25.1 billion for the food and nutritional service to help ensure that food from the farms gets to those that need it. It also, this is again the phase 3, it also replenished the Commodity Credit Corporation borrowing authority by $14 billion to allow people to take advantage of that program as well. All right, Florida specific. Yesterday, Governor DeSantis was with the president in the Oval Office to review plans to reopen our state's economy. I expect today, what I think is 1 o'clock today, is their press conference. Nationally, there's guidance, and all you got to do is go to whitehouse.gov, and they have the specifics, but I'm going to kind of go through what phase 1 looks like. Now, the governor can make he can make his own rules different than what's on the White House's website, but I think generally this is probably what we're going to see. The governor announced today. Again, if you're a vulnerable individual, you're recommended to stay in place and not return to work. If you're one of those vulnerable at-risk individuals, and you should be taking precautions to isolate yourself from other vulnerable residents. When in public, should maximize physical distance from others. This is the phase 1 reopening. Social settings of more than 10 people where appropriate. Distancing may not be practical, should be avoided unless precautionary measures are observed. Avoid socializing in groups of more than 10 people. Minimize non-essential travel and adhere to the CDC guidelines regarding isolation following travel. For employers, continue to encourage telework where possible and feasible with business operation. If possible, return to work in phases. If you are going to return to work, close common areas where personnel are likely to congregate and interact, and enforce strict social distancing protocols. Minimize non-essential travel and adhere to CDC guidelines regarding isolation following travel. Strongly consider special accommodations for persons who are in the vulnerable population. Visits to senior living facilities should still be prohibited. Large venues can operate, but under strict physical distance protocols. So I can see the governor letting, say, spring training baseball start back up, but no fans in the stadium, and the teams using sanitizing protocols and social distancing protocols. I also can see in phase 1 elective surgeries resuming as clinically appropriate on an outpatient basis at facilities that adhere to CDC guidelines and CMS guidelines. So I can see that being part of it too. Phase 1, as it relates to how the White House defines it, gyms can open, but they must adhere to strict physical distancing and sanitation protocols, and bars will remain closed. So that's I expect the governor to do a phase 1 open today. That's what I think some of it will be, but obviously when we get more specifics, we'll push that out. And if anybody that's listening, if you don't if you're not on our Facebook page or you're not on our Twitter, if you follow us on those, it's at Rep Greg Steube, all one word, REPGREGSTEUBE. If you follow us, we constantly are updating our pages with this type of information. When the governor issues an order, we put it out there. When the president issues an order, we put it out there. So if you want to be up to date on what's going on, I encourage you to follow our Facebook page and follow our Twitter account. All right, a few other things that are going on as it relates statewide. Governor DeSantis issued a statewide executive order suspending mortgage foreclosures and rent payments for 45 days. He also issued an executive order waiving taxes on loans issued under SBA. They expanded private laboratories to be able to do COVID-19 testing, which has helped the timing of the testing. And I'll get to this in a second. I'll go over the tests or the cases. So as of last night at 6 p.m., there were 32,846 total cases in Florida with 1,171 deaths. Hardee and DeSoto counties both have a relatively low infection rate with 26 total cases and 4 deaths in DeSoto County and 12 total cases and 0 deaths in Hardee County. And I just got my update this morning of the cases yesterday. I get a daily update of every county in my district of cases and deaths. And yesterday was the first time since all of this started that there are 0 cases in all of my 9 counties and 0 deaths in all of my 9 counties. That hasn't happened since this has all started. So that shows and tells me that we really are starting to see a decrease and a flattening of the curve. And that's really good news across Southwest Florida. So if I'm seeing, and I have big counties, so I don't represent all of Lee County, but that's included in my numbers. I don't represent all of Polk County, but that's included in my numbers. So bigger counties have seen no cases and no deaths yesterday. So I think we're really starting to pull ourselves out of it. And I really encourage the governor to letting businesses to start opening up. I mean, if Walmart, Target, Publix, all these other places can operate safely and you're not seeing a spike in infection rates, I don't understand why we can't open up small businesses across our state and let them get back to doing what they do. So the rest of my counties, just to give you an idea, total Lee County has seen 954 cases and 40 deaths. Sarasota County has seen 317 cases with 39 deaths. Polk's seen 451 cases with 20 deaths. Charlotte has seen 218 cases with 15 deaths. Highlands County has seen 80 cases, 7 deaths. Glades County has seen 5 cases and 1 death, and Okeechobee County has seen 9 cases and no deaths. So again, if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, you can keep updated on all those, all of that information. All right, I kind of went over all of the different. Well, let me talk one more thing about this. Has been a question on my ag calls as it relates to H-2A. So the administration's been working to limit the disruption to the H-2A workforce caused by COVID-19. Specifically, Secretary Pompeo and the State Department have authorized consulary officers to expand the categories of H-2A visas whose applicants can be processed without an in-person interview. So they're ending the in-person interviews for people that have done the program before so that our farmers and ranchers can get the labor that they need and not be affected by overall change in immigration. At the outset of the crisis, I joined with my congressional colleagues in the state in sending several letters to the Department of Homeland Security, highlighting the need for the expedited review process of H-2A visa applications and to offer flexibility in this approval process. And I'm pleased that the Homeland Security Department heeded our requests and has addressed those issues. And that's kind of a brief overview from the Fed and the state. And now I'm happy to take questions from anybody.
All right, Debbie, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute yourself. I know DeSoto's gotten several questions and the Hardee Chamber has gotten several questions. We did get one question regarding the Community Relief Act. This is specifically regarding small local governments financial assistance. I will have a bill number he endorsed and would like to hear the congressman elaborate or provide any updates on legislation regarding that.
For monies for local governments?
Correct, small local government.
Yeah, so in the 2.2 trillion phase 3 bill, there was over $100 billion specifically for local governments and states in that first bill. And one of the reasons why Mitch McConnell and others have pushed back on putting more money in those pots is that money hasn't even been used yet. So Florida got $8.3 billion from that $100 billion that was in the phase 3 to allocate to local governments. I haven't heard how the governor intends on distributing that. I have heard from local governments that said they haven't seen any of that money. So I would encourage people to reach out to the governor's office or their local state senator and state rep, because there was money that was allocated through the phase 3 legislation to go to local governments specifically. And Florida got $8.3 billion. And to give you an idea, I served 8 years in the state legislature. To give you an idea of how much money that is, our entire Department of Transportation budget for a year is $10 billion to build our roads and our bridges and all of that. Our total amount that we intake from the state sales tax is about $40 billion. So to get almost $10 billion is about a quarter of what Florida would typically get in a year in sales tax revenue. So that's a considerable amount of money to be used throughout the state. So I would encourage local government leaders to reach out to their either state rep or senators, or reach out to the governor's office to find out how they're going to allocate that $8.3 billion that they got in the phase 3 legislation.
Jessica, I think you're on mute. There you go.
Debbie, do you have any questions from DeSoto County?
I'm not seeing any. Did you see some? I looked on Facebook and I'm checking the chat, but I don't see anything here. Do you see them on your side?
No, I had a bunch of people kind of reach out through Facebook when I told them that we're having this call, and through emails when we did this invite. There were several questions regarding 1099 employees, contractors, things of that nature, real estate agents that don't feel like they have any help during this time. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, Congressman?
Well, I know that real estate agents were deemed essential under DeSantis's first order, so they could still operate if they have a real estate business. They obviously have under 500 employees, which most of them probably have. They can take advantage of the. When they started to run out of money, I was getting a lot of people reaching out to me personally, saying the frustration they had trying to get that program resolved. But I haven't heard from folks as it relates to that, and we reallocated about $331 billion for that program. So if they haven't taken advantage of the loan process, all they got to do is go to their local banks, whoever they do their banking with, and they should be able to walk them through that process. So that's something else that real estate industries or realtors could take advantage of as well.
Okay. Great, thank you for answering that. There was a question here. It says, will the SBA open up to accept any more applications for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Emergency Advance?
Yes, and there was an additional $10 billion in the bill that we passed Thursday that was allocated specific to that program. So there's now more money in there that can be taken advantage of.
Okay, great. Now, from your perspective, do you see that most people are excited the economy is open, or more fearful?
So I went out yesterday. I actually had to get my some maintenance done on my tractor and get some other things done. And everywhere I went, there wasn't even I didn't see that many people wearing masks. I didn't see that a lot of people having concerns about catching coronavirus. It seemed like people are wanting to get back to business as usual. I think the challenge that some employers are going to have is their employees took advantage of the unemployment compensation, which actually pays them more than they were making when they're working. So I've had conversations with those in the restaurant business that are going to have some real challenges, even if Governor DeSantis today announces that they're going to do some opening of restaurants, but with the social distancing in place and sanitation procedures in place, he's not going to be able to, people that I've talked to aren't going to be able to hire the chefs and the workers to come and work because they're making more money on unemployment than they would working. So those are the challenges that I think a lot of the small businesses are going to face. But as I go around the district, my feel is that people are ready to get back to work. They're ready to get back to some type of normalcy. Obviously, people that are at high risk or that may have some challenges in their immunity system don't have to go out, can wear a mask, can wear gloves, do the things they need to do to protect themselves. But I think certainly in my district in Florida, statewide, they're looking to get back to business.
Congressman, I had one that came in. There was a text just now. It said, based on, maybe this has been touched on already, but what about business concern of litigation if an employee or customer sues for contracting the virus? They might be scared to open up.
So and this was in the Wall Street Journal this morning too, Mitch McConnell is trying to work up, if there's going to be another bill, which I probably anticipate there'll be something that will be done again. He wants to immunize businesses from exactly that. He wants to prohibit lawsuits for people that are following CDC guidelines or following what the government's telling them to do, and somebody contracts the virus. So that's being worked on. I think McConnell, I know that McConnell wants to do that. The question is going to be, is the speaker going to go along with that? I don't see her going along with that, but if she wants more money for something else, I mean, it seemed like McConnell was open to giving states and municipalities more money, but I can assure you that if that happens, then she's going to have to go along with what he wants. And I think that business immunity from lawsuits will be part of that discussion.
And that's even a concern for churches as well. You know, I think they're trying to make decisions on what to do as far as gathering. But I guess that will come down a little bit more when the governor makes his, kind of lets us know the phase today. Would you think?
So churches can meet now if they want. I mean, the church I go to has just decided that they don't want to do it. They've been doing all their stuff online. But I think in the guidance today, I think he'll probably address the church issue, and maybe there has to be some type of, every church is going to be able to make that determination for themselves. The good thing with the way that Ron DeSantis did his order in Florida, unlike other states that you have seen, is he made that allocation for religious liberties in there. So if you wanted to go to church, you could. And each church can make the decision as to how they want to handle that if they do open up services. You've seen in other states, in New Jersey, for example, 10 people were arrested for gathering in a synagogue, yet the liquor stores in New Jersey were open. So every state has been different. I think DeSantis has done a good job of balancing religious liberties. So my guess will be he'll leave it up to the individual churches to make that decision as to how they want to do that. I don't know. I haven't heard from my church and pastor as to how they intend on opening up, but we probably will get more information today from the governor.
I had another one that came in from our local South Florida State College. And the question is our local colleges are receiving money through CARES for our students. Do you have any idea what the restrictions might be for students to use this?
To use CARE now, so if they're unemployed, they can take the unemployment compensation. They get the $1,200 if they make under the 75K, which I would assume they are in that category because they're in school. Colleges and universities is going to be an interesting thing to see. Again, you have your state colleges and universities that are going to get guidance from the state because they receive state funding. Your private colleges and universities, I think, are going to have the option to make that determination for themselves. But as far as monetary, there's not anything specific for college students in the bills that we passed.
Okay. Jess, did you want me to ask this other question, or did you want to?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, this one is quite a little bit lengthy. So the question is who is helping all the nonprofits that are giving back to our community that have chosen to use the funds to benefit their cause and hire help only as situations arise? An example is we are in the process of building a new facility. While we do not have employees, we are hiring from our community through our contractors to do plumbing, electrical, septic, driveway, etc. for the new building. We want to continue serving our community, which we cannot accomplish when donations are next to nothing.
So a couple things. 501c3s could take advantage of PPP in phase 3 in the bill that we just passed on Thursday. So if they, and my wife sits on a couple of boards of a couple of nonprofits, and they've received money through the CARES phase 3 legislation. So that process is working. If they had employees prior to all of this happening, they can get reimbursed for that to pay those workers for that 8-week period of time that the PPP program authorized that. So nonprofits can do that. That is something that they can take advantage of. And we just put another $321 billion in that pot of money. So if they haven't done that, they can take advantage of that. Outside of that, there's nothing specific for 501c3s in the last bill that we passed because they can take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program. There has been a lot of talk. I've seen a lot of requests to sign on to letters, actually today and yesterday, of a lot of different conglomerates of 501c3s coming together and asking for specific relief to C3s. So I don't know if that'll be included in the next phase. We'll just have to wait and see, but they can take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program.
And I know, as you know, we've all been signing on or trying to promote or whatever we can on the 501c6, as an example, our chambers, because as you know, they have not been included in any of this funding. So that's been really hard because we're kind of non-for-profit, but we operate a little differently. So that's been tough on us as well. So are we getting any closer to being included?
So I sent a letter, and you should have received it. If you didn't, my staff can send it to you. I sent a letter to the vice president in regards to that and his task force. I've signed on to a number of letters as it relates to that because in my view, you guys aren't any different than a 501c3 or a small business. If they can take advantage of the Triple P program, and 501c6s should too. So that's something that I've signed on to. I don't know what there wasn't a change in that this last bill, but I was hopeful that SBA would do that internally and do a rule change. So we reached out to them and asked them for guidance on that, and hopefully that they can change their guidance to specifically include that. And then you guys can take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program. I don't know when we're going to be back for another phase. It's going to have to be something that the president, Mitch McConnell, and Nancy Pelosi agree on doing. So I don't know if that'll be included in there or not, but I certainly have done what I can to advocate for that.
And thank you for that. I know that your office has reached out to me, so I appreciate all the hard work you're doing on that to try to get us included.
Yes, I definitely second that. I have one last question, and then we're going to let you get off the call. We know you have things to do. This comes from a business owner in Highlands who says, forgiveness feature in the PPP portion addresses keeping employees working. There seems to be nothing that addresses the loss of business and profit for the businesses affected. For businesses that count on seasonal profit to carry them through the weak summer months, has anything been done to help?
So I don't know if they're in the ag industry or not. If they're in the ag industry, they can take advantage of EIDL, the emergency disaster loans. They can take advantage of specific ag grants that we made available through the states, and they'll also probably be included in the $9.3 billion that was allocated to USDA. I'm assuming just because Highlands is a heavy concentration of ag type folks.
I believe he's a restaurant.
So restaurants, other than trying to take advantage of a disaster loan, maybe that's a route that he could take for loss of business. But other than PPP, unemployment, I don't know of anything specific that he would be able to take advantage of.
I just had one quick one that you can probably answer, and then we'll close out. There's a number of restrictions, as you know, on some of these. For example, on the 501c3s, some of those only have one employee, and I think isn't the minimum like 3 or something. I'm just kind of talking.
That was something that was like talked about and rumored, and some banks had some wrong guidance on that. The bill said anybody that had under 500 employees. So there was in the beginning some confusion about that, but that is 100% false. If you have one employee, you can take advantage of the PPP program. So if a bank is telling you that, then they need to call me and I can send them the guidance from SBA specifically to show that that's not the case. Or send you to a different bank that'll do that PPP loan for you. But if you have 1 employee or 2 employees or 3 employees, you can still take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Jess, do you have anything else? And if not, I'll close this out.
I do not. I just thank you for your time, and I am so sorry about the technical difficulty.
That's all right. Technology is great when it works, but it always is challenges with that. I just want to thank you guys for having this. Thank everybody on the call. Again, we want to keep updated on what we're doing and things that are going on. Please follow us on Facebook at Rep. Greg Steube. Follow us on Twitter at Rep. Greg Steube. If you have questions, if you're having challenges with the IRS, challenges with SBA, challenges with USDA, call our office. We are monitoring all the calls and taking all the calls. Our number is 202-225-5792. That's 202-225-5792. We're here to help. That's our job, to help you get what you need from the federal government. So thank you all, and God bless.